My awareness of the world really began, I think, around age 9. My family had moved to a small town in Idaho, Caldwell, Idaho, and we were in a big house, and the deck down, or the den downstairs was a place where we were storing lots of things. My father somehow found a couple of boxes of used books from a book sale, and so they ended up down there. So as a 9-year-old boy, I spent a lot of time down there reading. I remember reading the collected, or trying to read the collected works of Mark Twain. And I was down there one day reading, Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, and I saw a spider crawling toward me on the floor. And I was afraid of spiders, so I grabbed the book and I slapped it on the floor and smashed the spider. Only to realize as I turned the book over, it was a children's book called "Be Nice to Spiders." So that experience has stayed with me all my life, about both my fear of spiders, but also my guilt about having killed this little creature. Then also what turned into a fascination with spiders and other creatures. In that same room, in the den of this house, a year later, my parents were watching the news on the Sony television, and the television fizzled out dead. It was gone. So my parents somehow had the foresight to think, let's put this dead television into the closet and not buy another television. And so I grew up without a television, again, reading books, having lots of experiences. So my father, to entertain us, decided to show us his slideshows from his experience as a Peace Corps volunteer in the Dominican Republic. My father had joined the Peace Corps in 1963, about the third class to go out. He was in the Dominican Republic as a single man, and would meet up with Christopher Dodd for cold beers occasionally. He would show us these slides up in the kitchen. He would move everything off. We'd set up cushions, and he'd get out his old square slides and an old projector. And I would hear these stories over and over about going away, leaving Chicago, going to this island, learning another language, getting dysentery, fighting bureaucracies, accomplishing what he did of building a school for a community. So the Peace Corps didn't have a better recruiter. I, from 10 years on, wanted to be a Peace Corps volunteer. So fast forward to college. My family had moved around a lot across the states, had a lot of experiences in the United States, and in college had this dream of being a Peace Corps volunteer. I had also gotten this dream of being a Catholic priest. So I had kind of competing desires to be a Catholic priest and to travel the world. Until I had a summer epiphany that I wanted to be a dad much more than a father. That really, in one sense, freed me from the vocation of priesthood to really thinking about how am I going to travel the world and see the world. So I applied to the Peace Corps. My first time applying to the Peace Corps. And of course I was in college, I was idealistic. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to go overseas, change the world, make a difference, and come out just this well-rounded person who had learned another language, had learned how to cook some great cuisine, had learned a martial art, had learned new instruments, had picked up all of these things. So my expectations as a 22-year-old for Peace Corps for traveling the world were huge. My father got sick and was living in Honolulu. So he said, well, instead of Peace Corps, why don't you come live with me in Hawaii, in Honolulu? So I said, sure. I told the Peace Corps, let's withdraw my application. A year into living in Honolulu, I wanted to go to the Peace Corps. This dream was still there. So I applied a second time to the Peace Corps. This time, I was a little less idealistic. I wanted to make a difference in some people's lives and maybe get something out of it for myself. Peace Corps said, sure, we'll send you to Lesotho, South Africa. I was excited. I had my childhood dream, a letter in hand. I also had a girlfriend back in Cleveland. So I called her up and said, I'm going to South Africa. And she said, well, that's great, but 2 years is a long time. I thought about that and called the Peace Corps and withdrew my application.
Great.
And moved to Cleveland to follow my heart. So moved to Cleveland and got married to Erin. And a year into our marriage, I was lucky in that she also had a childhood dream of being in the Peace Corps. So we applied to the Peace Corps together. And this is my third time applying to the Peace Corps. And third time was a charm. We got accepted as Peace Corps volunteers. And to boot, we were sent to the South Pacific, to an idyllic island in the country of Vanuatu. So I was a Peace Corps volunteer. My childhood dream, I was with my love, and I was in the South Pacific. By now, my third time, my expectations had changed. I didn't think I could change the world on a drastic scale. I didn't know if I could even change the place where I was going to, but I knew that anything would happen, I could at least change myself. I could grow from it. And so that was my goal in that experience. The first week there, we were staying with a host family. And we were eating breakfast one morning, and I saw a spider crawling across the floor at me. And I mentioned that to our host family, to Noel. And I said, oh, there's a spider over there. And before I knew it, we were whisked outside, and everything in the house came outside, and he swept and broomed and cleaned out the house. And so again, my guilt about spiders was growing, that I had upended this family. We ended up staying in that village for our 2-year experience. Most mornings I would walk from our house up the road to the Little Nessa Cooperative store to buy a loaf of bread or an egg or some peanut butter. And every time I would walk up the road, I would pass other villagers, other people I know, and every time it was the custom. I would come up to the person, we'd extend our hand, and we'd shake once up, down, and up. So it was never a vigorous, American handshake. It was just shake down and up, and the person would say to me, "Anton, you go where?" Now the key, keep in mind, remember I told you I wanted to be a Peace Corps volunteer so I could learn another language. I was a writer, a communications person. I was sent to a place where the language was a pidgin English, Bishlama. English has 250,000 words, 750,000, many thousands of words. Bishlama has 2,500 words. So I thought that I was in this place where, while it was idyllic, I was given a language that I couldn't express anything. It was frustrating. We would shake hands. The person would say, "You go where?" "You go where?" And I would say, "Oh, me go along store now. I'm going to the store." "Oh, you go along store from Wana. Why are you going to the store?" "Me go along store along paying bread. I'm going to the store to pay bread, to buy bread." And the person would always finish, "Ale, you go along store now." "Okay, you go to the store." So very simple exchange. The idea was, though, that person knew where I was going, I knew where that person was going. So if you lived in a community overseas, I think in this community, the community knew who was doing what, where they were going, and what they were up to. One time in the morning, someone said to me, "Anton, you stopped long night too dark, yeah. You were up so late last night." So, I had to be careful about what I was doing because I knew people were watching. We finished our Peace Corps experience. We ended up in North Carolina. I've lived in North Carolina now for 10 years, the longest I've lived anywhere in my life. We're in a new house in a new neighborhood, and I find myself now sitting on my porch calling out to my neighbors as they walk the dog. "Michael, where are you going?" "I'm walking my dog." "Oh, great, you walk your dog to the park. I'm going to the store soon." And I found myself, and I realized I'm doing that, and I'm wondering what my neighbors are thinking about this. But the idea to me is community. What I learned about community in the Peace Corps, in this village in the South Pacific, I've applied to not only my physical community, but to the online community. I've spent a lot of time over the last 10 years in social media. As an early adopter to social media, using Twitter and Facebook and blogs, I'm doing a lot of what I was doing in this community village experience, sharing what I'm up to. And so what I learned about community overseas in the small village in the South Pacific, I've applied to my physical community and online community. And that led to a job here at Duke, and which is why I'm delighted to be part of this community, this university community.